Hey everybody, thanks for checking us out today. We are into the Thanksgiving season. Next week, Thanksgiving is upon us. Our kids will be out of school. And it just seems like every year this holiday season gets here faster and faster, and it flies by when it's here. And as I shared earlier in the year about being intentional in our time, and being intentional as we do things, something that continues to come up as our students have been walking through Scripture on Wednesday nights is God's faithfulness. And we're at a point in our study where we've walked through the life of Abraham and Moses, and God's faithfulness has always been there. And as long as you and I, continue to walk with Him, it will always be there. It will never fail us. This week, our students are beginning to look at the life of Joshua. And we're, if you haven't been watching, we've been doing an overview of Scripture, really, and been on the Old Testament with our students. And so we aren't spending weeks on every single word. We're giving an overview of Scripture and giving them the tools to dive in and dig and study deeper and see how we see Jesus connected from Genesis through Revelation. And so as we look at the life of Joshua, it's caused us to stop and reflect on how faithful and how consistent God has been, and throughout history, and as we reflect in our life, how we see how He has continued to be consistent and continue to be faithful to each and every one of us. And so that in itself should cause us to stir in our hearts. I mean, it should cause a stirring in our hearts for gratitude, for thankfulness, that we can look back and where the Lord has brought us from. And give along with that stirring a sense of how gratitude works out in our life, how people see it in our life, how we see it in our life. And I was reminded of in my study and looking for a good example of consistency, and I was reminded of Cal Ripken Jr. Now, if you're not a baseball fan and you didn't grow up in the 80s and 90s, like I did, and watching Cal Ripken Jr., he had the record for the most consistent games played in a row, 2,632 games, and it far overshadows the next person who consistently played in game after game after game. But the Orioles could look to him and know they could count on him, and that he was going to be there. And now that is just a small, minute example for us of consistency. But when we look at it in the whole view of God, of how consistent God is. But when we think about consistent people, think about reliable people in our life, we think about people that are always there for us. We think about things that they do, that they'll do what they say they'll do. We think about that they care for us. And so that in our lives, that could be different people at different times in our life. It could be a parent, it could be a coach, it could be our best friend. Hopefully, moms and dads, our kids can look to us and say, that's my parents. They're there for me, because we see the model that Jesus has set forth in Scripture. It ultimately reflects back to God from creation until now. But when we think about that, and we think about going ahead and that the aspect of gratitude and being thankful for somebody who was always there, and we get to Joshua. Joshua had Moses, man. I mean, he had a great model to walk with, and not just for 18 months or 2 years. Joshua walked with Moses through the wilderness. So you're looking at a 40-plus year relationship, where he saw the good times, the bad times. He was there when Moses communed with God, or at least close enough to him to see the effects of it. And it shaped him, it affected him. And when they were able to cross over the Jordan River into the Promised Land, You can only just imagine the swelling of his heart of saying, this promise that God made our people has been fulfilled. Even so much, if you read there in the first a couple chapters of Joshua, and when he takes the reins from Moses and leads the people in there, and it says when they get back, they get to the Jordan, and the priest's feet touch the water will be backed all the way up to Adam, which is a city there, to ultimately show the power of God. And in doing that, he also says, now I want one person from each tribe of just felt the day that they walked through the Jordan into the promised land. And so when we think of a biblical picture of that, it should cause us to reflect in our own life. Can we look back to where we were before we knew the Lord? Or even, we don't have to go back that far, where we were in a low time, in a low season in our life, and the Lord continued to lead us in faithfulness, and his faithfulness never wavered, into where we are now. And in living in a broken world, we understand that there's no perfect day, all right? There's no perfect time in our life, but we know the one we can lean on who is perfect, the one, because of his sacrifice, has made us holy in the sight of God. And because of that, there is gratitude, or there should be gratitude. We can lose focus of that sometimes to where we get caught up, especially this time of year. And for me, just a side note here, if you're like me, I love Thanksgiving, not just because of the good foods. I just love Thanksgiving. I grew up and just had a big extended family, and we always got together, and we'd eat and have a good time and play games, and I had so much enjoyed the fellowship of it. And that burned in my mind a love, and in my heart a love for celebrating Thanksgiving, and it causes me to reflect on things I am thankful for. And so for me, this time of year, I'm celebrating Thanksgiving, and then we're gonna look at Christmas. Now I know all you early Christmas decorators, I'm not hating on you. All right, if you want to decorate for Christmas, that's on you. I don't personally decorate for Christmas. I've got a turkey that I put on my front porch, and I've got Thanksgiving lights that are go up on my house, and I will put them up here pretty soon, and they're gonna burn the whole week of Thanksgiving, and then when we decorate for Christmas, I'll switch them over to Christmas colors. But I say all that because I'm the gratitude in my heart for my family, for how the Lord has worked in my life, how he works in my family's life. The older I get, I want to focus on that. Because without that, how can I look to that baby in the manger? So that's my justification for that, and that's a rabbit trail we could continue to go down all day long. But when we think about and compare our lives to this story of Joshua and the account we have of him, God was doing a mighty work through him for the reason of leading his people to fulfill his promise. And we see Jesus in that, because when we fast forward to the New Testament and the angel comes before the shepherds and say, tonight there's been a baby born in the city of David who is Christ the Lord. The shepherds were freaked out. They were scared. And these were people that lived out on the land, that fought off wolves and any kind of predator toward their sheep, toward their flock. And so they'd been in dangerous situations. And so they were literally did not know what to do when a host of angels popped out of the sky and said, the Christ has come. And in that, these shepherds, the people that the angels had come to, had understood that a Messiah was coming. They had heard the stories. They had grown up hearing of Abraham, Moses, Joshua, David, and knew the relationship those men, those patriarchs of the faith, had with the Lord, and the faithfulness that God showed in bringing the Christ to earth and to fulfill the prophecy was important. And I can only imagine in their hearts that they swelled up at that moment, but also as they went and found Jesus. And then when they left there, how their hearts were full, how they were grateful that the Lord had revealed that to them, where he could have spoke from the heavens and everyone on earth knew, but he chose to use those shepherds for that reason. And as we get to that season, as we get to here in the next couple of weeks, drawing our hearts and minds near to the manger and remembering of Jesus coming, we should ourselves be grateful and thankful for all that God has done and he continues to do. And he hasn't left us in the cold. He's given us a way through Jesus. And the longer we walk with Jesus, moms and dads, and we can pour that into our kids, the longer we do that, that gratitude will continue to grow for each other, one, but ultimately to the Lord. And the more our hearts grow in gratitude to the Lord, the more he's going to continue to work in our life. He's going to continue to draw us closer to him, to cultivate our faith, to grow our faith, so that as long as we are here on this earth, that we can live with that attitude. We can live with gratitude and be a people that strive to honor him in all that we say and do. And so I pray as we approach the holiday of Thanksgiving, as and this is us. This is an American holiday, but it should draw our focus to the Lord over anything else. So I encourage you to eat lots of good food and share with friends and family and have a good time in doing it. But just continue to be reminded of our thankfulness to the Lord and how he has walked with us, even when we weren't looking, even when we weren't expecting it, how he has walked with us faithfully through the good times and the bad, the same as he did with Joshua, the same as he did with Moses and Abraham before him, the same as he continues to do each and every day. And I pray that we can lead our families in a way that calls us to reflect on that. So let me challenge you with this, however you celebrate Thanksgiving, whether you go out to eat or you eat at home, and whatever the food may be, I pray that you take some time as a family to reflect on the things that you are thankful for and remember that the Lord has brought those to you and provided that for you. I pray you guys have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.